Hello there, friends of the program. It's Tate Frazier, and it's officially that special time of the year where we go on a march through madness together for the 85th edition of the NCAA tournament. What makes March so special, you ask? Well, it's the unknown. It's the fact that this is basically Survivor on a basketball court on CBS without Jeff Probst. And no matter how much you prepare, you cannot predict this kind of chaos. And that is what we will be covering on this podcast, One Shining Podcast. All the madness, all the David versus Goliath personified. It's the best show in town. The ball is tipped, and here you are with us. Come listen and join us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the Ringer NFL Draft Show. My name is Danny Heifetz, and I'm joined by Danny Kelly and Craig Horlbeck. And today we're going to tell you exactly what happens in the 2025 NFL Draft, because all the other mock drafts are just guessing. But luckily, we have good news. We have actually gone to the future. We've traveled to Friday, April 25th, the day after the first round of the draft. It was yesterday. We know exactly what happened. We're coming back. We're going to tell you what's going to unfold with 100% certainty. I can see it on Craig's face. Craig is still buzzing from San Diego State winning March Madness earlier this month. Isn't that right, Craig?
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine? We got close 2 years ago if we did it again. But yes, we are. Luckily, for everyone listening, you can place a lot of money on whatever we're about to tell you today because it is correct.
Don't really do that, for the record. But we got in the hot tub. We got in the hot tub time machine, and we got to see the future. It's amazing.
Yeah, come on in. Water's fine. So again, if you want the 100% accurate what's going to happen, DK's real draft. It's not even a mock draft. It's an actual just real draft. NFLDraft.com for all 32.
We got to rebrand it. Just the draft.
Just the draft.
Not a mock draft.
It's just draft reactions.
Mock tub time machine, baby. So yeah, we're just going to go through all this. And again, it already happened. So we're good. And just to big picture here, in this list that DK's transcribed, what really happens. 13 of the 32 picks in the first round are defensive linemen, either tackles or edge rushers, pass rushers, whatever. But that's 40% of the first round is just defensive linemen. So DK, it feels like everyone's just going to be able to convince themselves they're copying the Eagles and just building like an awesome line, but everyone's doing it.
It's funny because, I think usually the draft following a Super Bowl, especially when it's a dominant team like the Eagles, there's always going to be copycats like, oh, we got to build our roster just like the Eagles did, or whoever it is, whoever won the Super Bowl. And the Eagles obviously built through the trenches, have incredible depth, especially at the pass rush positions. And this is the perfect draft for that. So I could see a ton of teams just deciding they're going to, even taking these types of players over positions of stronger need, just building defensive line, strength on strength on strength. That was the Eagles story. And they're really good on the offensive line as well. And this is a pretty good offensive line class too. So meat and potatoes draft, lots of trenches, guys. Lots of grit.
We're going to get through all the picks that actually happened. But first, we're going to go through something that happened today, back March 4th, 2025. The Philadelphia Eagles, speaking of the Eagles, have re-signed Saquon Barkley to an extension. I've never seen this. The NFL itself just tweeted out the contract. I've never seen anything like that.
They did this specifically to troll Heifetz, I think.
I can't. This is unbelievable. So this sucks, man. So the Eagles running back Saquon Barkley has signed a 2-year extension worth $41 million with $36 million guaranteed. For context, his entire old contract was worth $36 million.
What was
total.
His contract? Was it a 2-year deal?
3 years, $37 million.
337. Wow.
He was making
but only
$12 million a year.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, Saquon was making $12 million a year, and now he's going to make over $20 million a year. So what is that? That's like a 75% raise.
First $20 million running back, I believe, right?
So, one, as a Giants fan, I think the Giants should just commit seppuku. Now
is when you do it. The extension of Saquon is the final straw.
You got to do it sometime. I don't know, man. Just get around to it. But I will say, I'll step outside of my sad Giants fandom for like one moment, and then I'll get back into it. I was thinking about this, and I'm like, at what point do we just have to? Where is Saquon in the best free agent signings ever? Like, if you just go through the list of the best signings ever. I know,
it really did work out just fabulously for the Eagles and for Saquon in particular.
Offensive Player of the Year, 2,000 yards, most rushing yards ever in a full season, including playoffs, won the Super Bowl. And then you look through the list, it's a lot of quarterbacks. So it's like Tom Brady, Bucs, 2020, they win the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning to the Broncos, they make 2 Super Bowls, they win 1. Drew Brees to the Saints. Those are all great ones. Kurt Warner, go to the Rams. I don't know if that one really counts. I think the quarterbacks you have to put to the side. But if you look at non-quarterback free agent signings, it's basically like Reggie White to the Packers, who won a Super Bowl, and he was the first real free agent signing. Yeah. Deion Sanders, San Francisco 49ers, signed a 1-year deal with the Niners, won Defensive Player of the Year. Niners won the Super Bowl with Deion Sanders. And then I think Saquon's like right there. Like, this is like an all-time transaction.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of just fame and the amount of times he's touching the football, the amount of times you say his name during a broadcast, I think this is definitely up there, because I would say, like, there's, we could go deeper into the list and find guys that are big impact players, pass rushers here and there or whatever, that have signed as free agents and made a huge impact. But in terms of just fame and being the focal point of an offense or whatever, I think this is definitely up there. It's just funny, and I'm not doing this to be mean, but like, the contrast from going to the Giants, where he was fun to watch, but absolutely made zero impact almost. It was like, it's just a sad sack situation. And then going to the Eagles, where he's leaping over guys backwards, finding rush lanes that like only one, maybe no other running backs could find, in terms of just like hitting these 60-yard touchdowns, and completely just revolutionizing their offense, more or less. It's pretty cool. It's pretty crazy.
How many years was he on the Giants? Was it 4?
He was drafted in 2018.
So 5 years in the Giants?
And he was injured
5.
a handful of times.
This might be the shortest amount of time that a player has been on a new team, where when you think back on them, you think of that team instead of the old team. Like,
right.
Oh my God.
Saquon has only played 21 games with the Eagles, and he played 90 with the Giants. And I am already at the point where when I think of Saquon Barkley's career, if you just say the name Saquon Barkley to me, the first image I think of is him in green, not in blue.
Oh my God, you're right.
Brutal.
He's not even
like, he's not a Giant in my head. I'm like, oh, Saquon, that's an Eagle.
Yeah. He'll go into the Hall of Fame as an Eagle.
Yeah.
He was on the Eagles for 6 years.
The Giants.
Because, sometimes
I don't remember any of it.
People, sometimes winning a title with a team doesn't necessarily stick in your brain. Like, when you think of Kevin Durant, you don't think of a Warrior. Like, I still think of him as a Thunder.
I think of him as a
Thunder, as a Sonic, yeah. But Saquon, 1 year with the Eagles, won the Super Bowl. Saquon is an Eagle in my mind.
That's really upsetting, because you're right. No, I mean, it's hard. Again,
I don't have many memories of Saquon on the Giants. I have like 5 of him on the Eagles, and he's only played one season.
You know what the one bright spot, though? Thank God the Giants.
The asteroid's coming?
The asteroid, but also thank God the Giants didn't like film a reality television show where they filmed themselves telling Saquon Barkley they weren't interested and they were going to give his money to Devin Singletary.
We didn't talk about UNC and Belichick.
Snip, snap. It was good. Hard Knocks was going to. Well, again, there is a myth. That's the other thing about Saquon of the Eagles. Like, yeah, we can talk about the extension. Frankly, the running back market, I'm a little bored by that. I'm like, all right, yeah, running backs clearly more valuable than we thought when you add him to a great offensive line. Derrick Henry also had the quietest 1,900 yards ever. No one even talks about it.
I know.
But Saquon, amazing season, $20 million. He deserves it. But like, I really do think that this is going to be an all-time thing we remember in the NFL, because there's a mythology around it already. And like, it's not just the Giants let him go, but the Hard Knocks filming it. The Giants, no one's ever going to do Hard Knocks. The Hard Knocks offseason thing, which was a better show than Hard Knocks training camp.
They literally left the NFL. No NFL team would do it, so now they're doing it for a college team.
They were going to go to the Belichick UNC. They canceled it.
Yeah.
The deal fell through.
They canceled it?
Through, Craig.
Yes.
Last night it came out.
Last night, the deal fell through, and that they couldn't decide over editorial control, which to me makes sense. I think Belichick maybe wanted whatever, but it made sense for everyone to do Hard Knocks. The NFL being like, no thanks. Hard Knocks going to UNC getting the press of like, hey, watch Belichick work. Like, I actually was impressed when Belichick and UNC, my initial reaction was, that makes sense for Belichick, because Sun Tzu Art of War, his whole thing is the strategy is no strategy. The NFL, he didn't want media attention, but in college recruiting, you need a media attention. So I was like, oh, maybe he will open it up. And the whole thing was just, he didn't think it served him, but he's fine with media attention if he thinks it helps him. And then the deal falls through, and I'm like, that's a huge opportunity for them.
It was an editorial control dispute. I still feel like college, it's still a little murky, everything that goes on behind closed doors. I feel like with college, even though NIL is a little bit more public now, I still feel like UNC would need to have complete editorial control to determine what gets on camera and what doesn't. So if it was HBO who wanted the final signature on what makes it on the big screen, I kind of understand a college backing out.
I mean, we'll see.
They don't want the NCAA crawling up their ass.
I feel like there's still a lot going on.
That's what leaked, though, is, it's not like the NFL teams didn't have editorial control. That's the irony with the Giants. The Giants could have not showed any of that. Like, when the Raiders did the season with Antonio Brown and his feet were burned, they didn't show anything of substance. Like, these teams never show anything of strategic substance. You're hearing about the 52nd guy in the roster, the 60th guy in the roster getting cut. It's like a fever dream. Like, the Giants had drafted like the most exciting running back like I've ever seen. And then they called him and they were like, we're not going to offer you a contract because we don't want to insult you. So if you get an offer, call us back.
It's still kind of wild to me that the Eagles were the team that signed him because for the longest time it was, they adhered to the philosophy of only investing in like the high profile or the lucrative what's the word?
Premium positions.
The premium positions, yeah. And basically you don't spend a ton of money on fungible positions like linebacker or running back or whatever.
But the Eagles, once you've done all that, like I feel like the Eagles already did all that. It's like we're good in the trenches.
But the Eagles were ahead of the
part of their
curve.
deal is, yes, they zig when everyone else is zagging. They're ahead of the curve. And also, like, he didn't make very much money. They didn't even have to give him that much money. That's the wild thing.
The Eagles bought the dip with Saquon. So, like, the last time they won the Super Bowl, their running backs, I believe, was Jay Ajayi was the starting running back for the Eagles when they won in 2017. Yeah. Like, they were almost 10 years ago, the Eagles were like, we're not going to pay a bunch of, like, money for a running back.
I love the fact that Gabe Dave was like making more money than Saquon.
That's the thing.
Barkley.
When they're like Gabe Davis is making more money than Saquon Barkley, it's like the Eagles are like, I think this has gone a little too far.
Yeah, we'll give him Gabe Davis money. Sure.
I feel like the lesson here, though, if you're another NFL team, the lesson is not go get a really good running back. I actually think that's pretty like overly simplified. Like, the lesson is still develop the trenches, build the trenches, and then you can get a really awesome running back, and it will work out. But just drafting Ashton Jeanty behind a shitty offensive line is just doing what the Giants did, not what the Eagles did.
100%. It's the cherry on. It's the reward of a lot of hard work investing in the offensive line. And the Eagles, not just investing in offensive line, but also they have Jeff Stoutland, who's like probably the best offensive line coach in the entire game right now, and he's really also the offensive coordinator in a way. And so he's developed. I mean, he made Jordan Mailata, who had barely played football, into one of the best left tackles in the entire NFL. And so, as my voice is dying, my body's shutting down from the Saquon news. But no, I think you're totally right, Craig. It's the same thing with the Lions and Jahmyr Gibbs, where Jahmyr Gibbs looks awesome at time in Detroit. All right, well, they put like 3 first-round picks into that offensive line. Like, that helps. And, and so the Ravens, like having Lamar Jackson, like developing Lamar Jackson, taking a shot on him, he makes Derrick Henry's job easier. So it is the fruit of it, but at the same time is also the mistake the Giants made to me was, and this is the thing that I lose my mind over, and I'm sorry to rant, but the leadership, the Giants came in and they were like, we don't want to pay these premium positions. Dave Gettleman just invested in these weird positions. So the Giants didn't want to pay Julian Love. He was
all
a captain.
The good players are at like non-premium positions. Yeah.
Julian Love was a captain on the defense. And like, he went to the Seahawks and he's like they should have kept him. Xavier McKinney was a captain and play caller on defense, went to the Packers, was leading the NFL in interceptions most of the way through the year. Like, Saquon was a captain, beloved in the locker room, left. It's like all the leadership, all the good positions they didn't pay, where it's like, ideally you want to pay premium positions, but I also, if you're doing it and you can't replace them with talent, like, you do need to retain talent on some level. Like, and then ideally you want to retain the talent. If you have talent at a defensive end, a running back, keep the defensive end. But what's the choice? Again, it was like Drew Lock. They brought in Drew Lock. He wasn't even the backup quarterback. That's $5 million right there. What are you doing? Oh my God.
And then Drew Lock cost you Cam Ward.
And then he cost us the number 1 pick.
The irony, the ultimate kick in the ass.
And so with all that said, literally, do you know the only thing that brings me any solace is it wouldn't have mattered. If the Giants re-signed Saquon, they would have won literally maybe 1 more game, maybe 0.
When you love something, you have to let it go. It sucks that the Eagles particularly sucks. It would be way cooler if Saquon was just on a random, if he went to the Chargers and they won the Super Bowl, but you have to be happy for him ultimately.
I think the worst part of the whole thing, is I know so many Eagles fans, and they're all not even shit-eating grins. They're genuinely like, thank you. He's such a wonderful person to root for. I'm so happy he's in my life.
Like a genuine handshake, thank you.
They feel bad for me, which is so much worse than being mean about it.
It is.
The other thing, real. The other piece of context that I think is interesting here is, and I guess he's probably a little bit older than Christian McCaffrey was when he went to the 49ers, but like there's some parallels with McCaffrey going to the Niners and sort of, being a force multiplier for that offense in a way that he never was for the Panthers. But going back, the 49ers had to trade a 2nd, 3rd, and a 4th in 1 year and a 5th round pick in the next year. Like, the Eagles just signed Saquon Barkley
and
in free
this
agency.
Is what happened. And that's what you just said is the sin. I actually don't think the Giants getting rid of Saquon is a huge issue.
Should have traded him.
Well, that's the thing. There's 2 options.
Yeah.
Well, 3. The Giants, you can either trade him at the trade deadline to like the Bills, and like again, the Giants got nothing for him because they signed John Runyon Jr. free agency. They didn't get a compensatory pick. There was no
thank
third.
goodness.
Giants got nothing for Saquon Barkley. So the Giants, you could either like trade him at the deadline for picks, or you sign him. You could even franchise tag him and try to trade him. The Giants did door D, nothing. You know why? Joe Shane said it on Hard Knocks. The franchise tag negotiations and the media attention exhausted him, and it made his life horrible, and he was tired of it. And they were too tired to do the job, which is pathetic.
This is why I don't make that many trades in Dynasty.
He says on camera, I can't handle the tag thing again. He can't do it. Thanks, Joe. Oh my God.
That's
Get
brutal.
something for him.
That
anyway,
is so brutal. It's like the Luka thing. I didn't have the energy
I don't have time.
to talk to other teams. I can't be talking to all kinds of teams.
You want me to call 28 teams? You ever made 28 phone calls?
Phone calls.
You got to call them
time
back
for calls.
And they got to text you after the call. My God. Anyway, all right.
He's like, by the time I call 28 teams, Luke will be 10 pounds heavier by then. I got to move quick.
Anyway, so there's Saquon. I'm honestly Eagles fans.
It's actually funny how much we've talked about Saquon this year.
He deserves better.
Well, he had the most rushing yards ever
for a season, and then won the Super Bowl.
Jumped over a guy backwards.
Did the craziest football play I've ever seen on a field. Okay, let's get to the draft that just happened. And again, just remind everyone, this is the mock tub time machine. Like this already happened. This so we're just recapping the first round.
DK, do you like that movie? I feel like you love Hot Tub Time Machine.
Oh yeah, I do. I think it's a lot of fun.
It's a movie.
Did you not like it?
No. I just I never really had a dedicated moment where I sat down and I think I watched the whole movie. It was just kind of always on like TBS, and I would turn it on and catch parts. But I don't really have like a strong grasp of like the moment I watched Hot Tub Time Machine.
Same. I also have the same. I've seen the first 40 minutes with TBS commercials, and then it was like, oh, like they're in the ski resort. It's cool. And then he meets his mom and she's hot. And then I don't remember what happens.
Right.
I mean, I would not put it in like the pantheon of all-time great comedies by any means, but I think it is a fun movie to watch. I'll put it that way.
It's a great title.
Makes me laugh. Yeah.
Great title.
Amazing title.
It's like they like break the fourth wall, and he's like, it's like a hot tub time machine. Like look into the camera.
I remember the trailer
just
better than I
the
remember the movie.
absurd title, the absurd concept. It's really funny though. John Cusack, come on. Craig Robinson.
Yeah. I feel like the cast is B level. It's like this script, they didn't think it had that much juice. So they were like, we'll give it to Rob Corddry, kind of a late stage John Cusack.
Yeah.
The other guy, who's the other dude? The white guy with the glasses? I've never known that guy.
Glasses white guy. I don't know his name.
He's funny.
Is he the energy vampire?
No. He's just another plain looking white guy.
He's just a guy.
His name is Clark Duke.
He's actually really funny. I think he's funny. He's been in a couple of movies.
Clark Duke. I would not have expected that to be his name. Yeah, it's like he was in Sex Drive.
Yeah.
Kick-Ass. I think he's going to be the Giants running back this season.
Yeah, Clark Duke. I know, it's actually a way cooler name than I thought.
He co-starred with Eddie Murphy in 1,000 Words. Clark Duke was with Eddie Murphy in a movie. Anyway, should we talk about the draft?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, came back from the draft. It actually happened. And we're going to start with the big news from the draft, which is the New York Jets taking Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders was the 7th pick. The circus of all circuses, Shedeur to the Jets. Giants killed Hard Knocks. Jets are going to bring Hard Knocks back because you're going to have Shedeur. Deion will come in to coach in 2026, and then like Brick Johnson's going to be there. This is like DK. Shedeur to the Jets would be like all-time circus.
Maybe I'm just trying to like will this into being or whatever by putting this. But yeah, I think it's so funny to go from Aaron Rodgers and that whole circus and that whole like everything that kind of goes along with Aaron Rodgers. He's going on Pat McAfee every week. What podcast is Shedeur going to go on every week?
His own.
He's going to have
legendary.
His own. Yeah.
He started his press conference at the Combine by being like legendary, and then ended with like legendary. Like that's like branding.
What, he's trying to like trademark the word legendary?
No, I think that's his company. Oh, now I look it up. I think his company is called Legendary, or Deion's company is called Legendary.
This is how marketing works. But yeah, I think
Legendary is his company.
This scenario is very interesting because obviously a couple of teams are passing on Shedeur Sanders for him to land with the Jets. And, we'll be probably scrutinizing those decisions the next 10 years. But I think the Jets landing a guy like Sanders, assuming Deion Sanders isn't going to like throw a wrench into anything in terms of like signing a contract and all that. I think it's a great situation for the Jets because they don't have any other options right now.
So the
beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, beggars can't be choosers.
Here's the deal. They don't have a quarterback. And Shedeur Sanders is a quarterback.
DK with Shedeur. It feels like I don't know. Are we treating this like it's April? It feels like over the last 2 months, there's been a gap.
Character here.
Like the gap has widened between Cam Ward and Shedeur a little bit. And do you think there's a possibility that Shedeur could have fallen even later past the Jets, and that it actually might end up being better for him? One, he can have the chip on his shoulder thing. He kept talking about it at the combine. I don't care when I go first. I don't care when I get drafted. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that it's actually... Oh, there's an ant on my hand right now.
An ant on your hand?
Now we have ants. It's probably all that poppy.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Bring the ant here. Are you going to kill the ant? What are you going to do with it?
Low sugar in the poppy, so the ants...
What'd you just do with the ant?
I killed it.
You killed it?
Yeah.
Right there. What'd you do with it?
I squished it with a Kleenex, threw it in the trash.
Just what a monster.
Wow.
Anyway, what I was going to ask you is, like, do you think it's actually just better for Shedeur if he falls late, goes to a better team, better offensive line, better structure around him, rather than going to a shitty team in the top 5? And because he's a guy like who gets criticized for holding onto the ball too much, taking too many sacks. He might not be that athletic. That's going to be a lot harder. That profile is going to be a lot harder on a shitty team than a good one.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot to that. And you mentioned, or you asked early on, like, if he hadn't gone to the Jets here, would he have fallen pretty far? And I think if you look at the teams that's after, it's like the Panthers, they don't need a quarterback. Saints, they're like in quarterback hell with Derek Carr. I don't know what that's going to happen. The Bears don't need one. The 49ers don't need one. Cowboys don't need one, I guess. The Dolphins don't need one.
What do you mean, I guess, for the Cowboys? He just gave Dak Prescott.
They just paid
$1 billion.
Cowboys fans are trying to get rid of
$250
Dak, I feel like. Everyone's trying to get rid of Dak.
Except Jerry, who just gave him $250 million.
That's fine. The Cowboys don't need one. The Colts kind of need one, but they're not going to get one in this draft, I don't think. Falcons don't need one. Cardinals don't need one. Bengals, Seahawks, Buccaneers, Broncos, Steelers? Yeah. Maybe
I would take Shedeur Sanders at pick 23.
If the Jets hadn't taken Shedeur here, I think there's a solid chance he falls pretty far, or a team trades up. But I think that has been kind of the story since the combine, that the gap between Ward, it's like Ward, the number one, and then it's like Shedeur versus the other quarterbacks, Jackson Dart. There's been more discussions about who's the second quarterback than who's the first quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, and I guess I'm a radical when it comes to landing spot. When I watch, I don't have as many questions about Shedeur, and maybe it's because I'm really confident he has a football IQ. But I don't know.
Heifetz is really in the bag for Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I like Shedeur because it's funny because I have less questions about him as a player and more about just the circus of it all. And I feel like people are ignoring that. But the player, Brock Purdy complimentary. Like, I think Shedeur can extend the play. He takes sacks trying to play hero ball, but he should, the way Colorado's set up. The whole thing's for him to do that. He can throw over a defender in his face. He has no panic. Like, he can throw, he can hit short side digs. I know people have questions about his arm strength, and I understand, far side digs, maybe there's a little zip, but I like that he can play on time when he does have protection. I think his deep accuracy is there, even when the footwork isn't perfect. I trust his receivers. I guess that's a function of having, Travis Hunter, but he's going to have Garrett Wilson, so it's a good quality.
People like to compare Hunter to Garrett Wilson, so this
makes sense. I think that's one of the reasons maybe Deion Sanders will give this his blessing, is that Garrett Wilson's there. My question is twofold. Why is Shedeur holding the ball so much and really drifting back in the pocket? And is it because the interior of the Colorado offensive line is so bad, or is it because he can't see over his offensive line? And I think the Jets' interior offensive line is probably a little better than Colorado's, but the tackles are worse. Like, the tackles, they had Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith, 33 years old, each apiece out there last year. Like, the Jets tackle situation is a mess. And so you got Garrett Wilson, you got Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. But outside of that, I don't know who's catching passes for this team. They're going to they cut Devontae, cut Alan Lazard because it's April 25th and we already know the future. Like, those guys are gone. So I guess my question is, is Shedeur going to be able to escape and extend plays in the NFL when he was doing it in college against guys of much less athleticism? Right. I feel like when they played Colorado State, he could do it. And when they played Nebraska, it was harder. And that's my question, is what happens when he's
going Oregon? They had a tough game against Oregon.
Yeah. And so that's my fear, is he going to be able to play on time? And I think yes. I think that people get so tripped up on Shedeur not having Deion's athleticism, they forget, but he does have the Deion, there is a football IQ that I think that he's absorbed. Yeah. But it's just, how's he going to play for Aaron Glenn? He's been playing his dad for 10 years, basically.
I think this is the big question with Shedeur outside of the Deion variable. But I mean, he led the FCS in sacks last year.
FBS.
Sorry, the FBS. He led the FBS in sacks. He led the FBS, or he was third the year before in sacks. So this is a quarterback that takes a lot of sacks. And that doesn't typically go away. It's one of those things where the offensive line surely is a variable. It is a factor. If you have a really bad offensive line and pressure's coming very quickly, you're going to take a lot of sacks no matter who you are. But this is like the Caleb Williams thing all over again. It's like he took a ton of sacks in college, and then guess what? He almost led the NFL in sacks as a rookie. And that's like...
And Caleb is way more athletic and
Caleb is
physically skilled.
way more elusive in terms of like getting away from pressure and finding a way to make a play. Shedeur Sanders is not that elusive. He's not that athletic and agile as a scrambler. And so I think this is like the big question with him is can he play on time enough to kind of mitigate that issue? And I think he's always going to be a guy that takes sacks.
How would you grade the landing spot of the Jets in terms of nurture, like as a grade?
Well, it's the Jets. So like that feels like an automatic F. But that being said, in terms of the skill players they have, Garrett Wilson, I think, is a very good player. And I think he's still got a ton of upside. I think Breece Hall, despite what he did last year, is a good running back. I think they can have a good running game with him and Braylon Allen. Isaiah Davis flashed a little bit too. Like in theory, they could have a run game. Olu Fashanu coming on at left tackle. There's some guys on their offensive line. They have Elijah Vera Tucker, Joe Tippmann, Olu Fashanu. And
Fashanu played really well in the few games he played. He got hurt.
They just were injured a lot last year. So I think there's a theoretical version of this Jets offense that has a lot of talent if they can stay healthy. So I think it's
you
not
also
the
left out John Simpson, who's overcame the awareness issue ratings in Madden. He overcame that adversity from Brick Johnson.
That was a good note though by Brick.
Yeah. They don't have a ton of depth, but I do think in terms of landing spots from a pure talent perspective, this isn't the worst spot. For sure.
And Aaron Glenn, who theoretically is an adult in the room.
The other part of this is Shedeur falls to the Jets because the Raiders take Will Campbell, the offensive tackle. I mean, if they're taking him at the 6th pick, he's an offensive tackle at LSU. Will Campbell. DK, how do you feel about the Raiders taking an offensive tackle here over Shedeur? I thought Shedeur might go to the Raiders, but do you think it makes sense for the Raiders to be building offensive line out with the first draft with Pete Carroll and everyone and Tom Brady?
This is kind of what I've been saying all along, that the Raiders, it makes so much more sense for Pete Carroll to invest in the offensive line or just build up the foundation of this roster before dropping a rookie quarterback into it, which is, basically what Carroll said for years when he was with the Seahawks, is the number one job is to make the job of the quarterback as easy as possible. That's the coach's number one priority. And so this makes a ton of sense to me. They're building in the trenches. They're adding depth to the offensive line, a guy who can play multiple positions if they need to. You fill out the offensive line with the best 5 guys. He's a really talented player, really good athlete. And it makes a ton of sense. And, look, you could quibble over which tackle maybe is the best in the NFL or best in this draft right now. But I think Will Campbell just makes a ton of sense for them to, like I said, build that foundation. They can add a quarterback later.
Do you think Armand Membu, the Mizzou guy who went to the Dolphins at 13, you think that there's a world where he actually ends up as a better tackle?
I do, because he's another guy, super athletic, plays with a little bit of nasty. I think these are the 2 guys we're going to be kind of like looking at over the next few years and kind of comparing their careers, because they're both a little bit undersized, I think, in terms of length, but both have incredible movement skills, both play with incredible balance. So I think there's some similarities between Armand Membu and Will Campbell. I ultimately think Campbell's going to be a really good player, though.
It's not always the sexiest pick in the world, but I feel like it's hard as a fan to get super upset when your team takes a tackle in the first round.
There's like every team in the NFL wants a better offensive line except for like 3. You know what I mean? And even those teams like to have depth. So yeah, I think even if there's some question whether he's going to play offensive tackle or offensive guard, I think the value is there no matter where he ends up.
So the other one here is the Cleveland Browns took Cam Ward, Miami quarterback, 2nd pick. I mean, I think given the option to move on for the Deshaun Watson era or not, DK, what do you think? Do you think it was a good idea for the Browns to move on for the Deshaun Watson era? Do you think that's the right move?
It's tough. It's really tough to know.
I see both sides.
Yeah. No, this is this is a no-brainer.
Especially considering the news that Deshaun tore his 2nd Achilles last week.
That happened because he retore the other one.
Achilles.
He had third. Yeah.
Exactly. Because again, we're coming from the future. No one saw.
I didn't even know we had that many Achilles.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think this makes a ton of sense. Cam Ward established himself as the top quarterback in this class, basically coming out of the combine. He big, tough. Well, he's not that big, actually. We didn't really talk about this. He measured out at 6'1", which was kind of surprising to me. At the combine, he's 223 pounds, so he's got like some mass to him. But I was a little surprised that he was under 6'2", when he got measured at the combine. What did you think about that, Heifetz?
I think coming out of the combine, it feels like everyone left the combine was like, yeah, Cam Ward's everyone's number one quarterback, right? I mean, DK, you had Cam Ward number one the whole time, but did Cam Ward do anything, or was everyone just like, I don't know about this Shedeur thing?
I think it's a little of both. I think he was very impressive. From everything I've heard, he was very impressive in interviews. And, it's something kind of like what we were talking about with that clip where he's working out with Shedeur Sanders. And you okay there? What happened there?
Jackie just scared me. She came home 4 hours early from work and just opened the fucking door, and I lost my mind.
That was like an actual jump scare.
That was crazy. She had no idea I was recording. She thought I was just talking to you guys. No, we're on doing the show right now. She scared the fucking shit out of me.
That was a legit jump scare.
I'm home alone. I've been home alone all day until she's sitting here super embarrassed that she interrupted the show. We're not cutting any of this.
Oh my God.
Love you. Oh my God. That was freaky.
She's not coming over.
It's 3:00 Eastern. She's usually home at like 6.
That was really good.
So that was like, I literally, like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like right before that, I heard like the sound of keys downstairs. And I was like, well, that's either Jackie or I'm getting robbed. And I was like,
Jesus.
No, that's my imagination. That's not real.
It'd be weird to get
You didn't see this coming with the hot tub thing?
It'd be weird to get robbed with a guy with keys. I don't know what he'd be doing with those.
That's true. It's just like a suit. Yeah, it's just
like the worst idea ever is to jingle keys.
Jingle keys while you rob people. Dude, Burn Notice. I love the Burn Notice thing, but Burn Notice was so good. But he was Jeffrey Donovan's the spy and the first episode is like, yeah, when I break into people's houses, like you don't want to wear a ski mask. You grab a yogurt, grab a spoon, start eating, and they come downstairs. Who are you? And you're like, who are you?
Maybe keys is a good idea. Maybe you should pick the lock and jingle keys. People think, this guy knows what he's doing. Yeah,
he's like, I didn't break in. Keys. Hello, it's my place. And I genuinely have no idea what we were talking about.
I was talking about Cam Ward being 6'0". So 6'015", according to his measurement.
Which is 6015.
Which is
bullshit.
I'm telling you the exact measurement. People are rounding that up to 6'2".
Wait,
that's
6015?
6'1.5".
6'1.5".
The combine puts it out as like 6015, which to me is like just Sanskrit.
I thought both of these guys looked a little smaller in person, to be honest.
Shedeur is small. Shedeur is a small. That's one of the reasons I compare him to Brock Purdy. Brock
thin.
Purdy looks small.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And again, part of me, I don't know.
Does it matter to you that he's 6'015"?
Dude, Cam Ward, why are we dancing around this? Cam Ward on the Browns is not going to work. Like when you see the jersey that has all the names of the quarterbacks from the last 20 years on it, Ward is going to be an easy addition, and in 2 years they will have a different quarterback.
Yeah. It's funny that we've spent a lot of time on Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, the two big picks of this draft, and one went to the Jets, one went to the Browns. None of these are working out. What are we talking about?
Usually just,
we're talking about the fucking Jets and the fucking Browns and two quarterbacks that nobody is really that excited about, and we're all talking ourselves into because it's March. This is not like the Kenny Pickett year, but it's the second worst of the last 10 years probably.
The simplest way that I could explain how I feel about Cam Ward and Shedeur is I think that if you told me one of Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders would still be in the NFL in 10 years, I would pick Shedeur, even as a backup quarterback. And if you told me if one of Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders got an MVP vote, I would say it's more likely to be Cam Ward. Like, I think his ceiling's higher.
Yeah.
Do I think that the Browns and I like Kevin Stefanski as coach, but that organization's cursed. And the idea that, like, you're right, it's not a great environment. Maybe it's just a low bar with Deshaun Watson being there, but I'm like, I like Kevin Stefanski. I'm curious to see if he can merge, what Kevin Stefanski's been doing with that offense. There was big issues with Deshaun Watson where he couldn't really run. He didn't really want to run.
Well, they tried to
Kevin
change
Stefanski
the entire offense around what Watson was good at.
And everyone was mad. That's why that's why the players also like Flacco. They were like, oh, this is like a real offense we've been practicing. And so, I mean, Cam Ward, he had I think 4 under center snaps last season, or plays, under center throws. So they'll have to adapt that.
General fit, I think, is pretty rough. I mean, you're going into the AFC North, where all of the other 3 teams are quite good. You're playing in weather. Your supporting cast on the Browns is not good. I mean, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have Elijah Moore. You got Nick Chubb coming off this horrific knee injury. He came back last.
Test free agency too. Yeah,
it's like it is not the offensive line. The offensive line is not what it used to be in Cleveland. No. It's a pretty tough spot to be dropped into.
I just love Craig so much. Why are we dancing around?
Why are we dancing around? This is not gonna work. You're right.
We're talking about 6015.
We don't even like these quarterbacks. A month ago, nobody liked these guys, and we have nothing else to do, so we're talking them up.
You're right. You're right, of course.
Cam.
My barometer for all this stuff is I just talk to my friends who are diehard college football fans. I'm a casual college football fan. Like my brother, I have friends from high school. All they do is watch college football. Every time I'm like, oh, so what quarterbacks do you like this year? What do you think about Cam Ward? They're like, Cam Ward sucks. What do you think about Shedeur? Like, Shedeur's not good.
This is the Anthony Richardson thing all over again.
Exactly.
Florida fans were like, he sucks.
I'll never forget. I was like, oh, I think Anthony Richardson might go top 5. My brother's like, that is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The guy was not good in college. He was actively not good. Why would he be a top 5 pick?
Actively
And then
bad.
you combine all that with, we should do a thing where we basically have like pretend that guys are asking us, like, if your friend's like, hey, I'm between a few jobs. What do you think? And I'm like, I got an offer from this place called the Cleveland Browns. What do you think?
Yeah.
Like, no, don't go there. So yeah, the teams that need quarterbacks usually suck.
This draft really fell terribly for these two quarterbacks.
Yeah,
I gotta
well,
say.
or it went well because holy cow, they're the best 2 quarterbacks in the draft. Like if they were coming out last year, they probably wouldn't be first round picks.
I know there are a few nuggets that I will preserve in my brain with this draft season, and it's every analyst ever saying, "Oh, if these 2 guys were in the draft last year, they would not be top 7 off the board at the quarterback position. They'd go after Bo Nix." I'm like, all right,
beggars can't be choosers.
Don't forget that.
So, and ironically, if they'd come out last year, they probably would have a better chance because if I think if Cam Ward went to the Steelers last year, like that'd probably be better for them. But you have to turn around a team. So other things here that happen, again, coming to you from the future. The Giants achieved my lifelong dream of getting Travis Hunter.
Congrats.
Receiver quarterback from Colorado.
You willed this into existence.
Yeah, and again, the Giants, they could have taken Shedeur Sanders at number 3, but the Giants, they got Aaron Rodgers and they got Devontae Adams in free agency, and thank God that happened 6 weeks ago. So who needs a quarterback under 40? Also, I couldn't believe.
Can they get Cup too? Get Aaron Rodgers, Adams, and Cup.
And it's crazy. I couldn't believe when we, people from the past won't believe this, but at OTAs, Brian Dable showed up he had one of those Turkish hair implants. So he's just, out here like a chia pet. So, the Giants, I think the Giants are rejuvenated.
Like yeah.
But no, I really do love Travis Hunter. And I it's so funny to go out and like, this is my draft take as an island is he's going to do what he did in college. The thing no one said he could do, where he's going to play all the defensive snaps and almost all the offensive snaps.
Which is funny because typically it's the opposite. Like we just said with Anthony Richardson, the case was like he's going to do what he didn't do in college and be and going to be better in the NFL.
Totally.
So it's not a crazy take.
And I'm like, everyone's like, well, he can't do both, and I'm kind of like, nah, I think he's going to do both, and he's going to be perfectly good at it.
Heifetz, are you happy that the Giants took Travis Hunter because they already got a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, or would you have wanted them to select Travis Hunter regardless of what happened to the quarterback position in the offseason in free agency?
Well, Aaron Rodgers isn't exactly a spring chicken.
Well, I think the way I look at it is
both.
Dable and Joe Shane are going to get fired if they're not competitive this year. They probably have to make the playoffs, and maybe if they have some 9 or 10 win season and there's promise, like maybe they would run it back. But they have to basically make the playoffs to save their jobs or at least try. And so I think that, again, you never want to be in that situation. You don't really want the leadership of your team to be in that situation ever. That's not really how good organizations function. But if you're going to do that, in a way, you could argue to me both ways. But I think the idea of, well, we have to take Shedeur Sanders at a quarterback because if we don't and he sucks, who cares? We're fired. And if he's good enough to get us there, like, oh, we can just save our jobs. I don't mind just taking an awesome player that, like, I believe, like a Travis Hunter, like this, the most overused phrase ever, truly a once in a generation player, a once in a century. Like Travis Hunter's the first two-way player that's good since Beatty Feathers or whatever. Cloyd Spock's the last guy doing this kind of stuff. I'll take
a once in a
probably.
Get him on special teams.
Giants need one of those too. They would have won in week 2 if not for that. But like, I'd rather have a guy like that, and then we could just boot Rodgers out the door next year if a new coach comes in and get a new quarterback, and like just bank good players and get a free agent quarterback, because I don't like the idea of people making short-term decisions with their jobs on the line. So Travis Hunter to me is a long-term thing. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers, I don't want to talk about it.
So do you think Daboll and Shane are less likely to get fired if they sign Aaron Rodgers, they win 9 or 10 games and either barely miss the playoffs or lose in the wildcard round, then they draft Shedeur or Cam Ward and they win like 6 games and things look okay?
No, I think they're less likely to get fired if they take the rookie quarterback, which is why I'm happy that they did that. If they take taking Travis Hunter makes me happy because I'm really confident Travis Hunter is an NFL player. Whereas when you get a quarterback and then the first coach is fired, like basically a short, like back of the napkin math. If a rookie quarterback has to get to his third coordinator, they're not going to work on your team. Mm-hmm. Like the back of the napkin is coordinators being fired once, like what just happened with Caleb Williams, happens all the time. Guys make it. when the second guy doesn't work either, generally speaking, that means either the guy is no good or your team is no good and he'll be good elsewhere. Like Baker Mayfield to the Browns. Like actually he works somewhere else, or Zach Wilson, the guy sucks. He's no good. So
this is like exactly what happened with the Bears last year. Everyone was like, before the draft, everyone was like, why are they hanging on to the Flus? Why is the Flus allowed to be loose? Still, we saw the Flus. By the way, we saw the Flus at Shapiro's, the sandwich shop.
Matt Eberflus, the head coach of the Bears, formerly.
The Flus was loose at Shapiro's. He was getting a sandwich.
We had to remind ourselves that he is now the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. I didn't realize
I did not know that.
Which
but
is
anyway,
also just
everybody was talking about this before the draft. This was before even free agency. It was basically after the season. Was why would the Bears keep Eberflus? They're just gonna fire him after a year anyway.
Yeah.
Like it was the most obvious thing. And then, lo and behold,
it does feel like a nice spring cleaning to sweep out the coach and the GM when you have the opportunity to pick a good rookie quarterback.
Exactly.
And you guys laughed at me last year on the show. We said which pick is most likely to get their coach fired. I said Caleb Williams, but it's just like I don't know. It's what happens.
It's a good call,
man.
It's a good call.
Did the pick get him fired? The pick didn't get him fired.
Running out of time in front of 40 million people on Thanksgiving probably got him fired when they had a timeout.
Dude, That was wild. Forgot about that.
So those just, you know what, man?
That was against
so many weird things happened in the NFL.
Was that against the Cowboys?
No, it's against the Packers.
Oh,
and it was divisional.
I was going to say,
man,
it
was the Lions.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was the Lions. Right?
Which is worse.
The YouTube thing that came up was the worst clock management you'll ever see.
It really was. It really was like S tier. We like to live in the moment, but that really was an S tier. Like the fact that it's Thanksgiving
game just ended.
Oh my god!
They had a chance to tie it, didn't they?
Oh
or they could have kicked it for. I think it was like they could have kicked a field goal to try and tie it.
I think that's my favorite way for NFL games to end is for the offensive team not realizing how much time they have left and the clock just runs out.
So funny.
I guess it's like easily the funniest way a game can end.
When you go to an NFL game, though, I understand more and more how that stuff happens because, you know, on the screen, this is such a silly way to think of it, but it's the truth. On the screen, you're looking at the clock the whole time because it's on the screen. If you're the coach, there's so much going on, and the clock is kind of small.
You know what they need? They got to start wearing like those Google glasses or like the Ray-Ban.
Like a heads-up display?
Yeah,
Ooh,
so there's like you can
idea.
always see the clock in your visual frame.
They need the little score bug. That's also part of the
score bug.
By the way, the score bug was different during the Super Bowl. This is something we didn't talk about. And a whole bunch of people on Twitter and X were talking about how the score bug was stupid. And I was like, how does everyone know this is called a score bug? I've never heard this expression.
I had never heard that term in my life.
What the fuck is a score bug?
Nope. I would have called it the score graphic.
There's all these people talking about the score bug like it's a thing that we all know.
It looked like the first ever score bug, though, I will say. It looked like it was 1998, and they were like, we got something cooking.
Bold letters, like the shortened letters. I kind of liked it, too.
I hated it for 30 minutes, but you hate everything that's new. And then I was like, actually, it's minimalist.
Heifetz is like, actually, it's the opposite. I like it.
See, Heifetz, that's the problem, is I agree. It is not, I wasn't that offended by the actual graphic itself. I was offended that they decided to unveil it at the Super Bowl. They should have had it all season, so we're used to it.
I agree with that because they're like, well, it's the Super Bowl. We need something cool and different to show it's the Super Bowl. In reality,
no, it's the Super Bowl. Let's test out something new. What the fuck?
Do you remember they would update Facebook back in the day and people would like riot? Oh, yeah. They're like, bring back new Facebook. And then people would get addicted to that one. And then they'd change again. Like, we want the old one. And like, we hated that one when they unrolled it. It's like,
it happens with every app.
Going on.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
They should have released it earlier in the season. We could have gotten used to it. It looked like, remember the old game Pong? It looked like Pong level graphics.
Yeah. I liked it. All right, so just to recap the top 5 here of this draft that happened yesterday, that's 100% already happened.
We've been to the
NFLDraft.com. Mm-hmm. Titans took Penn State pass rusher Abdul Carter. Browns took Cam Ward from Miami. Giants took Travis Hunter. Patriots took Mason Graham out of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Just a double to the wall. I don't know if it's going to be a home run, but I like it. Is that a good baseball analogy? A double to the wall? I don't know.
You just said a double, and it took
Nobody
me a second
says double to the wall. I've never heard that, but I knew what you were saying.
I don't know.
Nearly a home run.
The gap.
Better than a single.
Right.
It looks good
Mason
coming
Graham
off the
could be a
bat.
home run?
I don't know. This is ridiculous.
I thought people love Mason Graham. He seems can't miss.
Mason Graham.
I think, yeah. I don't know if can't miss is the right way to put it. Because every time we say that, it's a miss.
Guaranteed double. Also, when's the last time we've had a truly dominant top 5 interior defensive lineman that was white?
I was going to say, between this and Cooper DeGene, there's a lot going on. There's a resurgence.
Eagles trade up?
Well, I was going to say, it's kind of a perfect New England athlete. You know what I mean?
True.
It's a good fit. You should put DK when you should put that in your draft grades when you file a draft grade.
Perfect Boston athlete. Speaking of, watch the Ringer's documentary on Boston, Celtic City. It's out now.
Celtic City,
HBO.
baby. Yeah, well, because it's April 25th. It's coming to the season finale.
Oh,
right
yeah.
now. Yeah, season
right,
finale.
Of course. It's been out.
Catch the finale of Celtic City.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is a good question, though, Craig. I'm looking at the Brian Brzee for the Saints last year, went 29th. No, sorry, 2 years ago. He hasn't really done a whole lot.
So keeping on with this draft here. So the Denver Broncos took running back Ashton Jeanty to Boise State with the 20th pick. It was crazy watching the telecast. I couldn't believe that they had RFK Jr. announce the pick for Denver.
Can we get an impression?
Yeah, can we play the clip of RFK Jr. announcing the Broncos pick? That was crazy.
DK, can you do the jingle?
Dun, 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 dun.
With the 20th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Ashton Jeanty, running back out of Boise State.
The funny thing about it is, not only does it sound insanely labored when he talks, it like looks labored. Yeah. He's like moving around a whole, like he can barely get words out. It seems
uncomfortable. It seems like an uncomfortable existence.
No, it does. And then Ashton Jeanty hugged him, and he I don't know, there's got measles or something, collapsed into dust. He knows what happened.
Frame though. RFK and Jeanty, similar frames. Yeah, they looked. I didn't know who was the running back for a second.
Just like barrel chest.
Yeah. Jeans at Gold's Gym. So Ashton Jeanty. So Ashton Jeanty to the Broncos. Where are we at on the whole Ashton Jeanty? You probably, as we were just saying with Saquon, you still shouldn't actually take a running back in the first round unless your line's awesome. Versus he's awesome though, and he's just sick.
This is dope. I think this is a great pick.
Sick.
Like we were saying with, Saquon running for 2,500 yards and winning the Super Bowl does not mean that running back is back. It means that running backs behind good offensive lines on good teams are back. And I think that's why this pick makes a lot of sense. The Broncos have one of the best offensive lines in the league. Like, they're already there. And the offense, I would say they have one of the best 5 or 7 offensive lines in the league. Would you quibble with that?
That's fine.
And they already have a team that made the playoffs. They have a competent quarterback in Bo Nix. They have like an offensive structure already built and no running game. And so to me, this makes perfect sense. And I love this pick.
I just Googled best offensive lines.
Okay.
Thanks.
the Broncos line was good last year.
Gemini said.
This is from Pro Football Network.
Okay.
The Broncos number 1. So there we go.
Well, I don't know if they're the number 1.
That actually makes me doubt the entire
list. I'd probably still take like the Eagles or the Lions or something.
Did Google Gemini not watch the Super Bowl?
He said it was Pro Football Talk.
No, Pro Football
Network. What Pro Football Network list has the Broncos number 1 over the Philadelphia Eagles?
Look, I don't know. All right.
They have a good offensive line. They have a top 10 offensive line, I would say, at the very least.
I think that's fair.
All right.
Anyway, Jeanty is kind of like, he's the type of player I think that actually would make a difference on this type of offense. They do a ton of stuff where
they need juice.
The running backs are getting involved in the passing game. I think Sean Payton is good at drawing up schemes to get the running backs into space. His run after the catch ability, his tackle breaking ability is going to make things easier for Bo Nix. This goes back to what we were talking about with Pete Carroll. It's like he's going to help his young quarterback and take pressure off of Nix to like have to carry the offense. And so I kind of like this actually. And by the way, it's like, this is a late-ish pick.
It's a 20th pick. You're getting 10. Like the best running back since Saquon.
Yeah.
So the other ones here. So we also have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
What do you think of it, Heifetz? You don't seem that thrilled with it.
So I have all these notes I was taking during the college football season. And I have like a few like in bold that I have at the top that I don't, like memento tattoos for my own notes. And number 1, I said, I have literally the top 2 notes in my draft prep are, don't let anyone tell you Travis Hunter can't be the first player taken, and don't let anyone tell you Ashton Jeanty can't be a first rounder. And I have them like bold, underlined, like it's like my memento tattoos from the season. And so I'm trying to stick to that of, Ashton Jeanty's sick. You can take him in the first round. It's fine.
Who's saying that Ashton Jeanty? That's a little straw man-y to me. That's like a little bit of like, I was told Steph Curry wasn't a good shooter. Yeah. Like,
no, I put it down.
Ashton Jeanty's not a first rounder.
No, I wrote it down in like October when, I'm just watching this guy on a Saturday and I'm like, don't let anyone tell you can't go in the first. And now we're here and people aren't saying that, but
I think it's a cool fit. I would love him to be in Denver.
Also, Boise State. Hello. I think there's a huge overlap there between Denver and Boise State. The Denver, like in terms of area, Denver is the largest fan base, like in terms of like actual square miles. Like Denver spans like so many states.
In terms of the distance of the next closest team, they have the most land, right?
Oh yeah, because they go up to like Idaho.
Yeah, but it's like the most sparsely populated areas in the United States.
Yeah, but it's well,
Maybe,
good point.
But yeah, no, the Denver fan base physically is massive. So I think the Boise State, like I think there's a lot of overlap there.
I can see
but
that.
Other ones here, your Steelers, Craig, Emeka Ibuka, Ohio State receiver. How do you feel to get like a veteran captain, upstanding citizen leader after years of Antonio Brown and George Pickens at receiver?
It is a bit of a
zag,
but a zag. The Steelers need that. There's like zero consistency on the Steelers offense, and so getting somebody who you can actually reliably depend on any given play sounds really nice. And he can be the yin to the George Pickens yang. So yeah. I'm good with that.
I think it's yin, isn't it?
What did he say?
A yin?
I thought it was yin yang.
No, it's yin yang.
Oh, yin yang.
It's definitely yin yang.
I'm thinking of the yin yang twins.
Well, they're also.
I
think they also spell it that way.
No, I think it's yin yang twins.
Oh, they do spell it yin yang.
Yeah.
All right, now that makes sense.
There lies the confusion.
That's really funny.
That actually is funny. I actually never
the yin yang twins.
While you're here, someone emailed us. Somebody emailed us from Neil.
Dude, that'd be pretty cool. That's their nickname, Ibuka and Pickens, the Yin Yang Twins.
We're starting it.
That's actually really funny.
That right now.
Yin Yang Twins. That's good. While we're on mispronouncing stuff, Neil emailed in. Neil. That I keep mispronouncing Bengals Hall of Fame left tackle Anthony Munoz, and it's Munoz, not Munoz. Munoz.
Yeah, I clocked that a few times, and I felt like it was wrong, but I just didn't want to I feel like I didn't want to bully you.
I
tried to shout him out. And he retired before I was born, so you know what? I'm sorry.
Also, yeah,
the tilde is over the N. You gotta notice that.
I did my best. I also tried to shout out an offensive lineman who retired before I was on this planet. So
that's pretty bold.
I tried.
Good for you.
He's good. They should. My take. They should have an award for every position at the end of every NFL season. The offensive line award should be named after him. And then, because I suggested it, they should do my pronunciation of his name. So
you said Munoz?
I call him. I just said Munoz.
Munoz.
Now I don't even know how I said it.
Munoz.
I was going for Munoz, but I think I got my own intention wrong, and that was also wrong.
It's all right.
Doesn't matter. Other ones here, DK. Your Seahawks took. I don't know what position to call it. Linebacker, pass rusher, Jihad Campbell from Alabama, who we haven't talked about a ton.
We haven't.
One of the most interesting players in the whole draft. So Jihad Campbell, he's a 5-star pass rushing prospect that they had to put an inside linebacker at Alabama, and then Alabama was great.
Alabama had, Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, like all these really, really good pass rushers. So they basically were like, hey, do you want to play a different position? He mainly lined up as like an off-ball linebacker. And in fact, at the combine, he looked really good. He was in the wave drill that they do where the guys, like the coach will like point what direction you're supposed to go, and you kind of like change directions on the fly. You don't know what's coming.
It's like a Mario Party minigame.
It like showcases your balance and ability to change direction. He looked pretty smooth doing it. I think he has the ability to start and play at off-ball linebacker. But the cool thing about him is he has like a ton of untapped pass rush potential. He's really explosive, really bendy. He's basically like a different version of Jalen Walker, the Georgia defender. And if you look at him, like he's an elite athlete.
Sorry, Jalen Walker, because there's a Jalen Walker Georgia in this year's draft, and there's a Trayvon Walker from Georgia who was the first pick in the draft 2 years ago. And you're talking about Jalen Walker.
And then there's Jalen Carter. It's a lot going on.
And there's also Herschel Walker, who is at Georgia. There's a lot of Walkers at Georgia.
No, Jalen Walker, the Georgia defender, I like for the Seahawks as well, but he's not. He went much earlier. He is the type of guy that's like, he played off-ball linebacker a lot for Georgia, but he's really exciting as a potential edge rusher, blitzer, that type of thing. I think you can get the same type of versatility as a playmaker from Jihad Campbell. I think he would fit the Mike McDonald offense or defense really well, just because, they're doing a lot of things where they're dropping guys back, then trying to confuse the quarterback by, dropping guys and blitzing other guys. It's not necessarily, or not even blitzing, just rushing with other guys. So I think his versatility, his explosion, his closing speed, and his fluidity kind of dropping back into coverage, I think makes him a perfect fit for the Seahawks. So I think he's really interesting. And they need a linebacker. They need more pass rush help. He's kind of perfect.
There are a lot of players that are sometimes ahead of their time, and these tweeners on defense. Like I think about like Sua Cravens being this like safety linebacker combo, or like Isaiah Simmons from Clemson, who like probably like got to the NFL a little early. Giad Campbell is someone who's probably getting to the NFL at exactly the right time, because doing this like Frankie Louva, basically being an inside linebacker that can just like actually win a one-on-one like pass rush versus left tackle, or like, or like the way that they have, like the Chiefs will take Leo Chenal and like he can put his hand in the dirt, he can play linebacker, like basically being the version of a not quite a Kyle Hamilton, but being able to do multiple things that are high level. The NFL now is at a point where they know how to teach guys to be able to actually do it. It sounds good on paper. There was a lag in whether teams could actually teach you and implement it on the field. This Giad Campbell to me is the epitome of a guy who has this skill set and is getting to the league at the right time, and the Seahawks would be the perfect place for him. No one would have a better idea of what to do with Giad Campbell than Mike McDonald in Seattle. Other one here, speaking of knowing what to do with the guy, the Los Angeles Chargers took Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. So you got Jim Harbaugh dipping into the Michigan pool. DK, we haven't talked a ton about Loveland either. Like, we've talked a lot about Tyler Warren, your beloved punt pass kick champion. You had the Bucks, the Bucks took him at the 19th pick, but Colston Loveland, so his arm was in a sling. It was like immobilized at the combine. And I think it's weird because Colston Loveland, I think your comp from was Evan Ingram, and Evan Ingram's like this high volume, getting 100 catches for the Jag. I mean, quietly one of the most catches that tight ends had in the season, like for the Jaguars. And it's so weird. It just rattles my brain to think of a high volume guy like Colston Loveland in such a low volume offense. And I wonder, like, how do you go about trying to project what a guy's going to be able to do when the Michigan offense is so like caveman?
Yeah. It's hard because I think you guys have to look at traits. And this reminds me, the Colston Loveland talk, and he's gotten a ton of hype coming out of the combine, even though he didn't test, is just like, how does he translate to an offense that's going to be much more pass heavy? Because he is I think he's closer to like a move type tight end right now than he is a inline wide tight end who's going to be asked to do a ton of blocking. I think he has that in him, but right now he's just more of an F tight end where he's moving around the formation, lining up out on the outside, lining in the slot, running after the catch, doing like crossing routes over the middle where, you get a defender on your hip and then you can just outrun him. That's like what Evan Ingram has done for the Jags and really kind of like found his niche there. But this discussion reminds me a little bit of the Nico Collins discussion when Nico Collins was coming out of Michigan, because if you look at Collins, his career at Michigan, I think his career high in catches was 37 or something like that. It wasn't like he was a prolific in production or anything like that, but he had the traits. He's big, fast, and physical and explosive. And I think that some of those traits are what Colston Loveland has as well. So I'm not saying he's Nico Collins because he's obviously a different position. I don't think he's as good of an athlete, but I think that there's some hidden value here. And I think he could be more prolific in the pros than he was at college, just because, he's basically stuck in this, really run heavy offense. And like George Kittle is another guy that kind of had that too. Like, there's a reason Kittle lasted the 5th round. He didn't have much college production. They're just running like a run heavy offense at Iowa at the time. And so, I think there could be some hidden value here with Colston Loveland. He's a really smooth mover and has some good athleticism. So I'm excited to see how this kind of works out.
Yeah, Sam Laporte had 5 touchdown catches in his entire career at Iowa, and then he had 10 as a rookie in the NFL. So it's funny to see those guys kind of pop. But yeah, Colston Loveland also, again, he sounds like he should be on The Bachelor, but like, yeah, sure, he can play for the Chargers. And then sticking in LA, you have Matthew Golden, receiver out of Texas, going to the Rams. So you have Luther Burden, who seems to not be impressing teams, and he's fallen out of the first round. But you have Golden going to the Rams and playing with Stafford. So went from the Rams thinking they'd trade Stafford to the Rams having Stafford, Puka Nacua, now Matthew Golden, receiver to Texas, ran a 4.29 40-yard dash at the combine.
Yeah, it's funny because he's very different than Cooper Kupp in terms of he's really explosive, really twitchy. Cooper Kupp is much more of like body control, route running, catch everything type of deal. Golden is more explosive, more elusive after the catch. Just more twitchy. And so I think he adds a little bit of the speed element to the Rams offense that they kind of been missing with Puka and Kupp as the 1 and 2 guys. And so, I'm really excited to see how this goes with Stafford back in LA and Kupp gone. Kupp with the Giants now, as we established.
Yeah.
So yeah, Golden, he's just an exciting player. He catches contested passes really well. He's really good with the ball in the air. Really good after the catch, like I said. Really twitchy. He can like square a guy up and just run past him. He lacks size, but that's about it.
I feel like he was one of the biggest risers at the wide receiver position this offseason.
Yeah, big time. Isaiah Bond, his teammate, was getting a lot more buzz, I think, coming into the season. And Golden, just came in and I think just impressed everybody a whole lot more. He's just like a more well-rounded, reliable receiver.
Retriever. right? He's the golden retriever. That was your comp.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp are still going to have a Zoom breakfast every morning, or is he going to have to find a new breakfast buddy? How's that going to work?
Well, Puka, do you
I
think
Puka kind of assumed that.
Is Puka the new breakfast
moved
buddy?
in on
it depends on whether Puka. Do you think
Cooper
Puka's
Kupp.
going to break from having his Jack in the Box breakfast or whatever the hell he eats in the morning?
Do you think Cooper Kupp regrets kind of
telling people,
mentoring Puka Nacua? Like Puka Nacua really is just like the next Cooper Kupp, like super tough, beloved teammate. You know, like going to become this gym rat type. Puka Nacua used to eat candy every day, and then he met Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp was like, no, you actually need to care about what you put in your body. Do you think Cooper Kupp, now that he's on the New York Giants with Drew Lock, like, man, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and I could have still been on the Rams right now having breakfast with my best friend every morning?
No, I think Cooper Kupp, he's a very religious guy. He's a big, like the Universal has a plan for me. And I think Cooper Kupp's like, this was the plan for me, was to play for this like 3-win Giant team that has Drew Lock overthrowing me. And as I like get my organs liquefied again on like a 3rd and 4 for like our 5th, like 3 and out in a row.
Is it not Aaron Rodgers?
Oh yeah. Sorry, Aaron Rodgers. Well, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles again on the 3rd snap of the season.
Right.
So that was, that's from the next, that people aren't ready for that one yet.
The upside for Cooper Kupp is that he will likely get introduced to ayahuasca, which we don't know how that will kind of
it's going to extend his career by 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other draft picks here from this? Any other first round, recaps want to go through? I don't want to give too much of the future to people at once. It's hard for people to handle.
By the way, you can read much like Biff's. What was it? What was Biff's like sports
almanac?
Yeah, the sports almanac. You can read my version of the sports almanac at The Ringer at NFLDraft.TheRinger.com, and you can see the entire first round.
By the way, Biff is just Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like it's very similar vibes. When you go to the future and you see like the empire, the casino hotel empire Biff built, and I he literally is Donald Trump. And there's a chance that they even styled him after Donald Trump.
I know. I'm actually Googling that now. I think there's a strong chance. Biff Tannen in the second movie was based on Trump.
Yeah.
God, Trump has been around for a long time. It's
I know.
crazy.
Home Alone 2.
Dude, the beginning of Zoolanders. Yeah, that one's a jump.
Oh yeah, the Zoolander one. He's on the red carpet. Yeah,
he's in like the first 10 seconds.
They let Trump's hotel let the production shoot at his hotel as long as he was in the movie. They were just like, if he can be in the movie, you can shoot there for free.
All right, thank you, DK. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, everyone, for listening. NFLDraft.TheRinger.com for all of DK's Back to the Future. What actually happened already in the 2025 draft. Emails to ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com if you have more 2 work platforms in a lot. Love the 2 work platforms, a Coachella artist, anything like that. Anything where it's like 2 work platforms, like some characters in Smallville.
Is Lugal a work platform or a reference to the movie Hot Tub Time Machine 2?
What word? Lugal?
Lugal.
Well, I think
I'm
Hot Tub Time Machine 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Hot Tub Time.
I bet you Googled it.
You
just
guys
now.
are fucking smart, man. No, it's like what's his name? Rob Corddry he stays in the past and then he starts Lugal instead of Google.
Oh, I don't think I haven't seen the sequel.
No, I don't remember.
I can't remember if it's in the
sequel
sequel or the original, but yeah.
All right, thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Yin Yang Twins.
Hell yeah.
Boom. Dude, Madden soundtrack Hall of Fame.
Salt Shaker, banger.
I'm apparently the biggest Hot Tub Time Machine fan. I celebrate the entire catalog.
I'm surprised they made a second one.
I like that he stays back. What year do they go back to? Is it the 80s?
Yeah, the 80s.
And he wants to stay back in the 80s. That's almost the plot of the fifth Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones.
Based off of Hot Tub Time Machine.
Did you guys see the new one? It might as well have been.
I did not.
He nearly, Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny, he is able to go back in time. He nearly stays with Archimedes back in whatever fucking year that was.
You told me that. Wait, you said this on the show. Why is he going to find Archimedes? Is it because he wants to figure out how much of his legs weighs more than the other?
I don't know. I already forget. There's they got the dial takes them there because they got to figure out they have to get the other piece of the dial or something, and it's back there. And Archimedes was the one who built it. But he goes back. When was Archimedes? Around the turn, around year 0. When was
I think Greece? I don't know,
200. It's 2,000 years ago, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
287 BC.
Oh, look at that. He died in
Okay.
Syracuse.
Close enough.
Syracuse, like in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was sick in the Jim Boeheim zone offense, zone defense.
He had height. He had length.
He had like, but yeah, the portal like
Second
opens
round
up to go back to present day, and Indiana for like a moment pauses and is like, "Go without me. I want to stay back with Archimedes." And then they're like, "Fucking what? And
You're
then they
gonna
bring
die
You're gonna
within like
cholera
10
and die
minutes.
within
You're
a
like
week,
80.
yeah. Craig, the way Craig
Quality
talking
of
about-
life back then. There was no people are dying in their 20s.
I think
Craig's-
the take that people hate the most of mine is that Indiana Jones 4 is a good movie.
Well, I was gonna say your favorite movie ever, right? Is the first Indiana Jones or the third one?
It's
What's your favorite
one.
series
It's
ever?
Raiders, but it's easily my favorite, franchise.
But the way you talk about the last movie is the way I talk about like recent Giants seasons. You're so crushed.
Yeah, it's not even that they did a terrible job. It's just the fact that it was made is so upsetting to me.
Did you see Harrison Ford's thing about like he's like, how do you feel about like they had to get the right shade of red? Is it weird to pretend that you're not wearing all this stuff? He's like, let me tell you something. That's what the $15 million are for.
I respect it.
I respect that a lot.
That's a good answer. I love that.
Harry Ford is still working. People like Shrinking. He does that show 1923 or 1883, one of those Sheridan shows. He's doing Jeep commercials.
Even though I'm a forward.
All these 80-year-olds are still working, man.
Dude, isn't it crazy to think like DK's kid's going to be
people
working
need to
in, like,
retire.
2100? DK's kid might be working. Assuming AI lets him have a job.
John Lithgow got cast as Dumbledore in the Harry Potter show coming to HBO, and they want to do it for 7 seasons. He's 80.
Well, the first one died in Harry Potter, and they kept rolling.
Oh God, Heifetz.
Sorry.
I know he doesn't live, but how early on in the story does he die? I can't imagine it's that early.
He will have to make it to 2030 for
Okay.
sure.
All
Wait,
right.
what's the new show about?
Harry
This
Potter.
is a good idea. They're doing Harry Potter, but
Thanks,
basically the
Craig.
episodes are going to be chapter by chapter, right? So it's like the first book is a season.
I have no
but,
idea.
Wait, they're redoing the movies essentially?
but as book. But as it's a good idea because frankly, like there's so much book that like they have to cut so much for the movie. All right, I have such
the way
takes
that
in the
you
Harry Potter
say
movies.
that, the way that you've been saying there's so much book. It's
There's
like look
so
at Banner
much
Michael.
book.
Like the way that like you're like ignoring grammar.
There's so much book. Should we put that on the Instagram?
Come
quote
look at
card?
Banner
Just-
Michael.
There's so much book. Danny Heifetz on Harry Potter.
So Heifetz, what season do you predict John Lithgow's character will die out of 7
you
seasons?
just asking me which book he dies in?
Yes.
It's 6.
I'm sure people could look it up.
All right, so he'll be 86, and that's if they do a show a year.
Why
Take
didn't they hire
86 and
fucking
86.
Clint? Get Clint involved.
Can I give
Clint-
you? All right, wait. While we're here, the
Clint will
Harry
be
Potter.
around.
They have to make the Harry Potter
Clint's
show
not
has to make
going
one
anywhere.
thing right.
Clint's going to be directing season 7.
Yeah, he probably is, and he'll do it in about 4 days.
No retakes.
They're gonna do one time. Harry, it's not me, not Hermione, you. And
You.
Clint's like, great, cut.
Ron's been splinched. I don't know what that means.
He's never seen it. Dickie, Dickie, you've seen it, but you haven't read the books. Craig,
Right. I haven't read
God.
book.
At some point, I have to just rant to everyone listening.
DK, are you
who's
going to
read Harry
read?
Potter.
You should read the books to your son.
I will. Skippy's going to read book to Calvin.
There's a lot of
Uh,
books.
Yeah. She's already tried and not going to lie. Sorry, everyone out there. He got bored. He didn't want to read it.
I was
So we're going to try
4.
again in like a year.
Yeah, that's fine. He's 4.
He has a very short attention span at this point.
Somebody reading a book to me sounds miserable.
Craig, that's because you're 30 years old. Liz doesn't just read you a book to bed.
Every night she tries to read the Chronicles of Narnia to me, and it doesn't work. And I just can't latch on.
Oh my God.
It just sounds like it's like the
You're
whole
just gonna be
joy of
rolling
reading
your
a
eyes.
book is you can go at your own pace, you can reread a line. The idea of somebody just vomiting it at you and you got to kind of juggle everything and then understand the story, it sounds bad,
Yeah, I agree.
you know? Although I guess that's what an audiobook is,
Yeah,
and I don't mind those.
kind of like a podcast.
It is.
Yeah, but audiobooks, I listen on like 2x.
One of our
So-
first arguments was Craig was like, if you listen to an audiobook, can you say you read it? And DK was like, yeah. Craig was like, can you?
Not
You
so
two
sure.
got into an
You've
argument.
consumed the story.
You've consumed it, yes, but you have not read it.
Okay, that's fair.
You changed the verb.
We gotta have a better verb than consume. I've absorbed the book.
Right.
It's like I know Kung Fu.
Right.
You didn't learn Kung Fu. It was just uploaded to you. That's a Matrix reference for the record.
I know.
Okay, just checking. You guys seemed lost.
I've
read
only
it
seen. I think I've only
in a
seen the
book.
first Matrix. Was it in the first one?
Yeah.
It's been a while. I watched a lot of movies.
Talking about another disappointing end to a franchise. Like,
Oh my
the
god.
first one was awesome. The second one was like, all right, well, there's still some fun parts. And by the time you get to the third, I didn't even.
That one
watch
scene,
the
though,
There
last
should be
The-
a fucking luxury tax for making sequels. Like, you should have to
That's a
pay
good
more
idea.
to make the second, the third, the fourth. The more you make, the more it costs. So you better be confident that movie's going to make $1 billion because you got to pay a 20% tax if you want to make movie number 4.
Who's the money going to?
The
The consumer?
The Yin Yang twins.
Yin Yang twins. It's going
We
to
saw the
whatever
kids we
state
took
it's
the books
filmed
from.
in. I don't know.
Probably John Lithgow.
Clint.
Yeah. It's all going to Vin Diesel.
For voicing Groot.
Dude, the video of Vin Diesel. Everyone's thanking everyone sent in their YouTube videos. I'm watching them. I don't know how we're gonna figure out a way to like get them mentioned. One of my favorites, just Vin Diesel doing all the "I am Groot." Like you ever seen him in the studio?
God.
And he's sitting there. He's like, "I'm Groot. I am Groot. I'm Groot," and he just does it like 100 times, and it's my favorite video ever.
What a
Such
bizarre
good job.
career
Such an
that man has
amazing
had.
job.
He got like $20 million to do that. Took him like a day.
He is, wow. That actually might be the most money for the least amount of work I've ever seen.
It's up there in human history, right?
It is.
He's Craig. He's DK. I am Groot. Goodbye, everyone.